man speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry, what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
Boom. Welcome in, everybody. It is time to pirate live stream because that's what we do. Now my throat is all messed up. It was fine before everything started, as usual. I've got my Sam Pell. I hope you have some Sam Pell. I've got my Muppet cup. Have you considered? Hope you have a Muppet cup. If you don't have a Muppet cup, you can buy one. And you should. Links below. I've got a nice mug here of beautiful Westminster tea from Table Rock Tea. It's a very scary mug, straight from Pirate Island. And then I've got my captain's mug. Get some nice mint tea ready here for later. It'll be great. So yeah, it's Muppet Madness because the world is mad, very mad. So let's grab our favorite book, see what we got, what wisdom Taleb can give us. Oh yeah, Matters Ontological. We've been in there before. Asking science to explain life and vital matters is equivalent to asking a grammarian to explain poetry. That is, as usual, a perfect quote from Nassim Taleb. Gotta love it. Absolutely bang on. Grammarians can't explain poetry, and science can't explain life. Pretty easy. If only everybody. How old is this book? Because this I've had this for a while. What year was this book published in? This book is quite old. I mean, not by book standards, but by reasonable standards. 2010. 2010. Taleb was writing this 16 years ago. You could have just read Taleb and you would have done all this, and you wouldn't have to have dumb arguments. So I don't have a specific topic because the world is mad and storms, and this is why I didn't get a video out this week, even though I have one. It's right here, right now. It needed a very after last minute change, so it didn't get released yet, which is good because it needed to change. So that's happened. This is a reaction / critique video of Bogosian and Colin Wright, which is just hysterically funny. At least part one's funny. Part two gets a little less funny, but part one's hysterical. And so it's ready to go out. It'll go out. I'll probably release it this weekend. And I have a part two. The part two for it is recorded. So that'll be coming out shortly after. It hasn't been edited yet though, so that editing takes some time, especially those things, because there's always sound discrepancies when I do recordings, and the meters are not that good. So the meters say they're the same sound, and they're actually not the same sound, and then so the editing can take a while. I think that the first video is like 2.5 hours. It's quite long. So, and we had all kinds of technical problems. We've had today, Windows wants me to update yet again for the third time in a week and a half or a week or something. Computer shut itself off 3 different times. Like we did all kinds of technical problems, storms. We get another storm coming, a bomb cyclone. Look up bombogenesis. Very fun. So yeah, it's just been a crazy week. So, but I will get some videos out, and it was really quite good because these last 2 hours, a bunch of stuff happened. I finished a conversation um, that came out that Mathieu Peugeot did back in October, which I found interesting. And I just finished that, and they brought up some interesting stuff. I mean, some of what they were covering was the objective worldview, which is fascinating because earlier this week, before I even started that particular podcast video thing, I was thinking about objectivism and how to explain to people, right? I need one on objective, one on material, one on reality, right? One on individualism. Like I need um, all these videos in the collection here. So I haven't done that yet, but I started the objectivism one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that's come up quite a bit now, just recently. And so if you're interested in the Mathieu Peugeot video and you're not on the Discord server where I've already posted it, I'll just drop it here because it's actually a really fascinating conversation, and it's probably worth your time to engage with. The beginning's a little slow, and the hosts are a little um, bonkers. But about 50 minutes in, it gets super interesting. So that was interesting, and then what happened was a Jonathan Peugeot video got dropped today, and I just finished that like 20 minutes ago. So maybe 30 minutes ago. But that was interesting too because he's talking about the Mandela effect, and then I didn't know where that had come from, and the video that got suggested next was the same topic, but it didn't look like the same topic, and it brought up all the same points, and I'm like, oh geez, this was a thread that I missed from earlier this month, right? And so, and I love Jonathan Show, but also uh, these people miss how memory works, and because they're using psychological frames and materialist frames, they're really not understanding what's going on here. Um, he's not wrong. Obviously, it talks about patterns. Thank you, Jonathan. You really should have me on because you're really good at symbols and not so at the patterns. Uh, it's the patterns. Everyone's missing the patterns, including mature, which is it makes me sad. I'm trying. I'm trying to help them out, but you can only do so much. So one of the examples that this other guy gave was the Flintstones. Everybody thinks it only has one T, but it has two. And they're like, see, you didn't remember it correctly. And it's like, well, no, that's because the weakest form of your memory is propositional. Oops. Nobody's ready for that one. And so that's part of the problem. This is part of the madness. The Mandela effect, after having been dragged up previously, they gave a really late date for this too. And I was like, I don't know. I think the Mandela effect was a lot earlier. Although that guy referenced a book, and I was like, I don't even know there was a book about this. Yeah, the real effect was the result. This is the other part. The Mandela effect, the ability to notice it, is entirely the result of the internet and nothing else. In other words, without the internet, you don't even see the Mandela effect. It doesn't ever happen. So that's part of the madness of the world, is that this is getting dragged back up again, basically. And it'll probably get dragged up over and over again to tell you, the way this one, well, the way it was coined was a glitch in the matrix. And I was like, but okay, I understand why you went there, right? A glitch in the matrix, but that assumes the perfection of the individual, as though your memory is perfect. And like with the Flintstones, the reason why you spell it wrong is because you remember how it's said, right? What it sounds like, right? And most people speak a little too fast, and so it's the Flintstones, and you can't hear the other T. And so when you put it back into letters, because those are more, we'll say, fundamentalist propositional than words, because the sounds kind of blend together, right? As I just demonstrated, then you never looked at how it was spelled, ever. That never happened to you. That's the problem. And so if you say, well, the individual has a perfect memory and I remember this, but all the evidence of what I remember has been erased, clearly it's a glitch in the matrix. This is madness, right? Because you're positing that you're a perfect person and that your facilities are perfect. And it was really funny too, because in this particular video, he showed you that there's no red in a Coke can, right? Coke can with lines and right. And yes, but it's an optical illusion also, right? And so they're combining all these effects to basically fake the foundation of your reality, right? That's effectively what they're doing, shaking the foundation of your reality through through these tricks. And that's supposed to convince you that they're right about something. So if you can keep somebody distracted on the whole foundation of your reality is, whatever, now you can inject whatever thoughts you want into them. And not everybody does that second part. And fair enough. I thank them for that. But somebody will, right? Which is very bad. So once you're opened up to that, when new signals come along, you're going to latch on to them for solidity, right? And so this goes back to another video I never thought I'd do. So when I was young, like 15 or something, all the way up into at least my mid 20s, the big joke with me was go ahead and bash your head against the red brick wall of reality all you want, right? Which is something akin to doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Although it was a bit more high level than that, because I just tell people like, yeah, you can drop acid if you want, but it's not going to change your personality, and you're probably just going to get grumpy when you're not on it, and long for it and waste your time, and you're just hitting your head against the red brick wall of reality, right? And so I think I am actually going to do a video about the red brick wall of reality analogy, although I have to work out, more how to do it. But that's actually a very important thing to understand, is that there are hard limits, constraints, hard stops in the world, and people are not accounting for that at all. Like they seem oblivious to this fact. And so that's another video that I want to do. So I've got a bunch of videos I want to record. I haven't recorded any of them yet. I'm still dealing with this stupid throat thing. So, I don't know what's up with that. And you would think after a while, you wouldn't have this latent cough problem anymore, but and it would be okay all day until you go to your live stream, and then all of a sudden it's back. Uh, but that's part of the Muppet madness. I mean, things are mad. Things are very crazy and strange and chaotic, and a lot of people are struggling with what is going on, and they're starting to ask questions like, what happened with Erica Kirk? Is she really a demon succubi? Well, of course she always was. That should have been obvious. But and people don't, they're like finding this out now. Like I'm like, you guys are all late to the party. But the good news is that some of the stuff is being revealed, like this objectivist worldview thing. And I don't think I've ever done this before. But I'm gonna do it now. I grabbed some of the notes. I have a couple of different notes files, right? I have one just for the live streams, and I have one for the videos that I record. And so I grabbed the notes from, part of this is from a conversation I had with Gustav's, I think it was yesterday actually, about this. But I had already started the topic, right? So I grabbed the notes from that video that I'm going to record and sort of threw them into the live stream notes here, which I have almost none of. I have a couple of links. I have those. And this glitch in the matrix assumes the perfection of the individual because it's related to this. Joe mentioned that there's no baseline reality. That's the objective material reality that the scientists require to do the sciencing. Without objective material reality, the sciencing doesn't work the way the scientists claim, right? And so that causes all kinds of problems for them because they're really trying to be the masters of the universe or something straight out of the He-Man cartoons, but they're not, and that really bothers them because then maybe the Crusades weren't evil or something. And oh my goodness, what causes war? Could it be human behavior? And I've seen a lot of people now talking about, hey, human behavior seems to explain all of this because no matter what we do, we can't get rid of it. And that objectivism, I'm not talking about Ayn Rand's objectivism, although also Ayn Rand's objectivism, by the way, because in the books, the pinnacle of the human achievement of the materialization of a human vision is the highest value to Ayn Rand. And it's proof that capitalism is better than communism. And so it's the triumph of the individual versus, in spite of the oppression of the masses. That's very Ayn Rand, right? But this objectivism is talking about things as if they aren't connected to other things, which is equivalent to talking about symbols without relationships. And so you can say, what is the symbolism of? Every time I hear that, I want to crawl up and die. I'm like, I just can't be in this place with people like this. Like, I can't do it. There's no symbolism of, right? Like that doesn't make any sense to use those words in that way. It's nonsensical language. And yet we kind of understand, like, oh, I want to understand this thing. Please explain it to me symbolically. Okay. That's probably what they mean in most cases. Fine. But still, the symbolism of is just such a horrible, it's a horrible way to talk. It's a horrible destruction of language as such. And having symbols without relationship, that's sort of like the prime form of objectivism. And this is why the upgrade to symbolism isn't going to fix anything, because people are going to treat those symbols as objects, which is completely inappropriate, because symbols are more like portals or gateways or methodologies that allow multiple entries and multiple exits, right? And they're the anchoring point for the affordances, multiple affordances in and multiple affordances out, but they act like a bridge, right? And so when you come up with some really clever name that's quite brilliant, actually, and you say something like bridges of meaning, aha, you could say symbols of meaning. There's lots of ways people come to the bridge, right? From along the river, from different angles, and then the bridge narrows things down, but then you get to the other side of the bridge and you can spread out and go other places. And so a bridge as a symbol of meaning is correct, completely correct. It's a little flat, but you have to start flat with flat people, right? The idea of multiple ways in and multiple ways out at the other side is already tough enough for people to understand. This is why the symbolism and the not so symbolism, people talking about wormholes all the time. That's why they're talking about wormholes. That's what wormholes are. They're the scientific version of a symbol, right? That's why the black hole has to go somewhere. What do you mean? Oh, well, it draws things in from all around it. Oh, how interesting. From all directions. And then what does it do? It flattens everything into a disk. Right. I asked my stepfather about this years ago. I said, hey, Steve, what's up with this whole like solar systems tend towards this flatness thing? And he said, well, yeah, because if you do the math simulation on it, and you can do this on a computer, by the way, it's not that hard. If you do the math simulation on it, you'll notice that what happens is some number of collisions will come in more closer to some certain number of angles. And as collisions coalesce and the gravitational field is set up with more collisions, the orientation of everything is a disk. But those disks are oriented in different directions in three-dimensional space. That's why solar systems are actually flat disks, more or less. So, right? And so it's like, oh, and when you think about it, like, oh yeah, of course that would happen, right? You can kind of see that in the real world all over the place. And so that idea of this flat thing is like that flattening of the world is natural to us because it's part of the natural world in which we inhabit, right? I mean, we're in the natural world. That's part of this world for sure. And so we can't reduce everything to objects because one solar system's this way, one's this way, one's this, but they're all flat. They're just at different relationships to one another. Right. And then they get caught up in larger galaxy things, and the galaxies are fluffy, but they're flat, but they're fluffy. Right. So these things are hard to understand. And in areas where that doesn't happen, there aren't collisions, but explosions, like some of the nebulae out there, like the Dragon Nebula and stuff, they're not flat. They're like clouds. And so you can see the physics at scale in action, but that phenomena exists at smaller scales because it's not quantum. That's just regular Newtonian dynamics, basically. So needing a way out of the flatness, taking a flat thing, because black holes are actually flat at some level for the same reason solar systems are flat, right? And then using that to say, well, you get sucked into this center thing, and then you get kind of spit out somewhere on the other side of something, right? A pulsar, a quasar, or something, right? That's a very natural way to reinstantiate symbols in the world because you need that. You need a transportation mechanism to get you from point A to point B, and that's what symbols are. But if you think in terms of objects, you'll just make the symbols into objects. This is where iconoclasm comes from, right? Like they're perfectly fine with symbols, kind of, and symbols are cool, and symbols are great. And there's nothing wrong with symbols. And then they're like, oh no, we can't have symbols because interpreting them is too hard. And once you kind of give them to people, like we've given them the book that they probably can't read very well because they're stupid, all kinds of problems happen, which happened with the book. The minute you give this incredibly powerful chainsaw to the 2-year-old, bad things happen. And that's basically what's going on. And this is what's causing some of the chaos, is all these collisions, and people are trying to like rebuild symbolism or something, right? And the thing is, in objectivism, objects become the prime mover. The reason why things happen is this object or that object, right? And the thing is, the idea of rights without responsibilities, right? Because responsibilities aren't objects, they aren't objective, right? That comes from this objective worldview, which, will happen to you if you're an individualist or a materialist. You're going to have to go with objects because it has to be you and something else in the world. And that's how you're orienting, which is not the right way to orient, as we know. Hopefully we know, right? So that's why people get stuck. That's what causes all the chaos. And this idea of, rights without responsibilities, that sort of came up. I watched, I rather like Andrew Wilson. And so I did watch Andrew Wilson somehow managed to get on Joe Rogan, and great for him. I'm really happy for him. And so I watched that video, and actually, some of this stuff comes up there too. And it was cool. Like I enjoyed that the language is sort of coming around to my language, right? So the way we've been talking about this stuff all along. That's very hopeful. It's very helpful. Now, I don't think things are going to start to get better anytime soon, mainly because we have a bunch of people out there doing a bunch of different things and not unifying towards a single purpose, right? And so they can't compete with things that are unified towards a single purpose. And so what that means is that you will not fight by having several warriors come up against the insane leftists who think that Alex Peretti is anything less than a criminal scumbag. Like, you're not going to win that battle because you're doing single combat against an organization that you don't see or understand, but it's there. We know it's there. We know there's an organization there, right? And if people don't get together, these single conversations, and my pirate live stream is not aimed at this, so I'm not too worried about the fact that I'm not in that game. Like, I'm not saying I couldn't be cajoled into helping with that, but like, I'm not going to do it myself. That's dumb. I know, even though I think I could probably slay it by myself, maybe if I had a little bit more energy, I know it's not. I mean, that's a hydra. Another head will come up, and you're on the radar of a large organization. No thanks. That's this is the myth around Charlie Kirk, right? Like he was such an ubermensch, effectively, that it must have been a coordinated organization that took him out. No, I mean no, right? Like the CIA had to have killed JFK. Now I actually think the CIA did kill JFK, but no, that's actually not true. A single individual could have done that because actually a single individual did do that, and it's pretty solid now. So the question is whether or not the CIA put him up to it, or manipulated him into it. More to the point, and different question. But that's an objective worldview too, because what you're saying is large organization beats individual because large organization. That's true, but the because is wrong. The relationship is incorrect. A large organization wins because of momentum and total resources. But large organization doesn't always win. I've been in large organizations. It's not that hard. You can shatter them to pieces if you're really, really good without infiltrating them too. Like that can be done. But you really got to see them clearly and know what you're doing. And most people are at the egregore stage of understanding hierarchy and different sized objects or hyper objects or whatever nonsense they're calling them this week in the sciencey world, because they don't want to use the word spirit, because then they'd be wrong about everything, but they're still wrong about everything. So I don't know why they just don't give up. So one of the side effects of this objective sort of thinking is if somebody makes a painting, or worse yet, let's suppose they do something completely inane, like they take a banana and tape it to a wall, and then somebody pays them $1 million. Then you think you should be able to do that too. And there's a technical reason why you shouldn't be able to do that, you moron, right? And it's not just because you're a Muppet, but like you're a Muppet, right? And if you don't understand that, then you think, well, somebody painted a painting and got $1 million, so my painting should also get $1 million because of the same object. This is just that flat world thinking. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not the only thing I'm talking about, but that's part of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the flat world. The flat world is made up of these reductions, these scientific reductions that happen as the result of objectifying the world. And so what you do is you cut away the things you don't want, and then you name the object, and then you ignore the relationships because you've already cut them away. See, this is the problem with science. It always has to rebuild the relationships because it cut them away first. It's like, but if you hadn't cut the relationships away, you wouldn't have the problem of having to remake the relationships, because you can't make quality relationships through logic, reason, and rationality. That's not possible. Those are linear and discrete ways of thinking. They have one begin point and one end point, with a couple of minor exceptions, but they're minor, right? And what that means is that will always lead you into a flat world. And it will always take an enchanted world and flatten it. Always. And then you don't know what connections are valid. So this video I just watched recently, which maybe I can grab the name of it. Is it still up on my stupid screen? Oh yeah. It's by this guy, Be Inspired, who, like, oh my goodness, like, please no, right? This has got 1 million views. CERN insider speaks about something is wrong with reality. And so what he does in the video is the first part is about somebody who allegedly has some connection to CERN, taking snippet quotes from people who are talking about pocket dimensions, basically, and the Large Hadron Collider. And then he's hopping that up. And then he switched immediately into the Mandela effect in the video. And I was like, wait, what did he just do? And I'm watching at 1.5 speed because I had to do this. Like 5 minutes before I went on, I was watching this video because something told me, like, no, you need to see this. And I was kind of amazed. So he's linking pocket dimensions, which have been known about theoretically since like the 30s or something goofy, with the Mandela effect, and at the same time re-explaining the Mandela effect 2 different ways. One is, it's a glitch in the matrix. Basically, it's that similar theory. The other one is, you have very little control of your perceptions. Well, what does that have to do with pocket dimensions in CERN and the fact that they can open them for a billionth of a femtosecond or whatever kind of nonsense? I don't know. I don't know. No, Ixon, BE space inspired. I don't. I've seen these guys' videos before, and I don't remember any of them being this crazy. Um, and the funny part is this particular video is sponsored by Story Blocks, and I'm just like, oh my good. So he literally takes blocks of information and just sticks them together randomly, and that's basically what the video was, because it made at least 3 major distinct thread points that are unconnected to one another. One is pocket dimensions exist, and CERN thinks they can get something in and out of them. Who the hell cares? It's not going to change anything, right? 2 is that clearly we live in the matrix because the Mandela effect. And 3 is clearly you have no control over your senses because the Mandela effect. Plus, look at this visual hallucination that we know, it's well known. And I was just like, wait, what just happened? Like, why did he do this? What is this madness? I don't understand. So I knew it was very like talk about psyop video, right? Like we're in full on psyop territory, folks. It's bad. So these are just a few of the mad things I've noticed. The other thing is the shrieking harpy panic over storms is like insane. Everyone's like, oh, the storm's gonna, 1 billion feet of ice and 30 trillion tons of snow per square foot. And I'm just like, guys, just calm down. And we're naming storms before they even happen, and it's on and on and on. And I'm just like, this is boring, and it's dumb. And I noticed I haven't watched it yet because it's like, why? But I guess Dark Horse Podcast, Brett Weinstein's channel, the Rorschach trap. And I'm just like, I already know what they're gonna say. They don't understand psychology at all. They're well out of their field. Again, out of the field. It's completely out of the field, right? And so they're going to say, you see what you want to see. And it's like, okay. But if you're using the Rorschach test correctly in psychology, the purpose of it is to use a visual stimuli that is random but organized. So it's organized randomness. That's what Rorschach is, right? To help to reveal, right, the unconscious hang-ups that a person has. Okay, it's not designed as a trap. What you're talking about when you're talking about Rorschach trap, again, like just stick to your field, or better yet, just shut up because you suck at your field too, as most people, right? It is confirmation bias. And like, you will notice that very rarely do any of these science idiots talk about confirmation bias. And it is the number one most important thing to talk about at all, because it is the psychological phenomena that corrupt science itself. And so you can tie crappy psychology, which I hate, better term, human behavior, much easier. Everybody has access to human behavior. You don't need to read the diagnostic manual or anything. The DSM-5, not required. Although 4 and 5 you shouldn't read anyway, because DSM-3 is correct, and the others are wrong. Just going to tell you, right? And so when you don't talk about that, you don't talk about the way people work, and you don't talk about the way people work, you try to come up with objects in the world that are confusing people or that seem to be doing things to people, right? And all that means is that you believe Rousseau. That's all that means. Because Rousseau, his basic thesis is still like, oh, if not for society, if we were born into a pure state of nature, we'd be good. And it's like, well, it didn't work for you, Rousseau, because you were kind of born in privilege and you're a complete scumbag. Like, I don't know, man. Um, and it doesn't matter since you wouldn't survive without society. So that ain't ever gonna happen. Well, who cares if it's true? It wouldn't matter if it were true. It's not possible. So, and that's another video I have to do at some point. I'm still struggling with how to do that, how to show you guys, like, no, you can just throw out a lot of this stuff by going, is this possible? Or can I participate in it? And going, no, and then just moving on with your life and actually getting stuff done, like growing a bean or, whatever, like much better. Because people seem confused about this for some weird reason. So those are some of the things that I've been noticing is this language is coalescing. People are starting to notice the materialism. They're starting to notice sort of the legalistic framework doesn't work, and that when it's being applied wrong. Legalism, I would call fundamentalism because it's the same thing. But what chaos have you guys seen that maybe you want me to comment on or do a quick dive into? Because I like to try to keep this as interactive as possible. And I haven't been achieving that goal lately. Our viewership's way down for some reason, which is a little weird in the winter, but it's hard to say what's going on. My big video that's going to launch my YouTube fame and fortune has not come out yet, although my Michu Peugeot video is still cranking away. It's getting double-digit views all the time still. I don't know how, but I'm super happy about that. It's well over 8,000. I think it's 8,600 or something. And so it's cranking away. I might break 10,000 with it someday. I really should do some, and I've got some stuff planned, and I've been waiting. Maybe I have to pull the trigger on it anyway. But I've been waiting for this other conversation on this other channel to pop to get out first, and then I was gonna do a little more promotion. But and I have a lot of that set, but I might have to go without it. Also, you may have noticed, and I think the link is in the description here, that my store now has the logbook for sale. The link is for the package of the book and the logbook, but the logbook is available separately for sale. So if you have ordered one of these lovely wisdom community books, then basically there is a logbook that goes with it. And once you read it, you'll see why. So you don't have to rush up and buy the logbook now or anything. But as you're reading the book, if you want to sort of implement the proposals in the book, which is exactly what the book is for, there is a logbook to help you do that. But that just got released recently, so it's now available, sort of thing, which is very exciting. And we are working on a virtue card game. Actually, two different versions with the same deck. I think. So we're working on all this stuff. And it's very exciting. Thanks. No, maybe we could work on slides for the realm of transformative coupling. Yeah, and I thought I looked for those the other day and they had all vanished from the universe. But I will ask the AI to find them because the AI is really good at searching your entire computer. I somehow managed to run the bastard out of credits for the week. Fortunately, that was only 12 hours before they reset for the week. So I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I don't know how I did that, but I suspect Anthropic just changed terms on everything, but it's okay. I'm not going to use the coding for Claude anymore. I'm just going to use Claude for Claude. Because I have a business thing that I have to work out. I'm going to have to get a job. But if I come up with my own job, it's much easier. So we're probably going to do that. We're working on that right now. That happened this week. It's been very new, so I'm super excited about that. It's a project I worked on a year ago, like almost exactly a year ago. In fact, I think it was exactly a year ago. It was probably it was the last Friday in January last year that I gave the initial proposal. But now it's got momentum. So I have help and momentum. So yeah, maybe we need to redo the slides for the realm of transformative coupling and start to explain what you see in terms of chaos. It's a good suggestion, Ixon. I should see real quick what I have. So basically, the way that works is it goes a long way towards explaining chaos itself and the sort of chaos that we'll say you're seeing right now, right? And so if you sort of think of the world in terms of uh, I don't know, severe chaos or something, I guess might be one way to think of it, then this will kind of resonate because it shows you why you get these pieces of, we'll say, insights that people have that are, that are real, genuine, helpful insights, and why things like memes actually make that harder. Um, and yeah, I know nobody wants to hear that because that upsets all kinds of people, right? But that's actually really important to understand. Like, there's a way in which this engagement with memes is destroying your ability to make uh, important, long-lasting connections with, we'll say, the most significant things, right? These higher connections that are sort of required. Um, it's harder to make them when you're stuck in memeville because memes are like short attention span theater for the mind, because they don't bring you through the realm of transformative coupling. What they do is they bring you out of whatever normalcy you're in and then up into random connections because they're effectively random, and then back down. And memes are not as universal as the people who like memes seem to think, and that bothers them great. Like, you can tell right away that they really rely on that. They get all upset when they find that out. They're like, "What do you mean you don't understand this meme? This meme is pretty clear, and this reference." And I'm like, "Bro, but like I don't have those references. Like, you're not understanding how concepts and thought work. Like, you have to have the references." And this is why you think the Flintstones was only had one T, because the referent that you're using is not the visual spelling you saw on the cartoon. It's the way you heard the name or thought of the name in your head, because your auditory system is much more powerful than your visual system. And I can tell you from direct experience that that's true. So when I went into anaphylactic shock and my heart stopped, by the way, which was kind of fun to experience. I don't recommend doing that, by the way. Like, just in case somebody's like, "Hey man, you want to go into anaphylactic shock?" Just say no, kids. Just say no. Um, my hearing went nuts. My vision, my eyes were wide open and my vision went tunnel in both eyes and I couldn't see. And I was like, whoa. I was really freaked out. I was also sick, so I thought I was going to throw up, and I never did, which is interesting. Um, but like, I was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna die here." Well, and it's kind of, well, whatever, I guess. Like, no one's gonna see me. It's a commuter stop. It's just like the first one I could get off at, after I realized, no, I have to get off this train immediately, right? And then, like, my hearing was amazing. I was hearing birds. I was in a subway underground. I was hearing the birds in the Boston Common, Boylston Street, Green Line stop, just before Park Ave. Um, and so, like, it was really like, my vision shut down first, my ears shut down last. I can just tell you, like, much more powerful, like, just much, much, much more powerful. And so, like, I think that's really important to realize because it sort of tells you something about uh, the way you're most likely to think about those sorts of things, right? So that's what you kind of have to engage with is, oh, the way we think about these things is auditory, and that's what links to memory. See, visual memory is unusual, and eidetic memory, as it's called, is super unusual. Like, nobody has an eidetic memory. It's extraordinarily rare. It's the thing that I've always wanted the most when I was young, and I have since kind of figured out, no, no, you didn't. You're a moron. You didn't want anything like that, right? And so now that I realize that, I no longer sort of yell at my brain about not, why don't I have this visual memory thing? Because it's a dumb idea, right? But when you don't know that, you think it's kind of cool, but most of the things you remember are smells and sounds. And then things you see, And the way memory works is all patterns. Like you have to lock. This is one of the things that Peugeot went into in his video, which I thought was great. You have to lock things into patterns to remember them. Like they have to be linked to other things. This is why the memory palace technique works so well, right? It works well because that's how we think. We think in terms of connectedness. And I think I just read an article. Oh, yeah. So I didn't read the article. The article was written by retarded people who are dumb. But basically what they were saying is they did some cool scientific tests because apparently scientists have to test stupid shit that anyone could just tell them is true without any kind of scientific tests, where they built a memory palace system, two memory palace systems in two sets of people. One was based on positive things and one was based on negative things. And of course, the negative things you remember better. Unless all of evolutionary theory falls apart and doesn't hold true, of course, the negative signal is more important than the positive signal. You morons. You're dumb. If you don't immediately make that connection and realize, oh, if evolution true, and I do mean any part of all of the things they put under the bucket of evolution, in order for any of that to work, the negative signal has to be the one you pay attention to the most. Because you only die once, right? You get 0 other shots, right? So it's kind of that simple. Let me just look at this real quick. No, it's not here. Okay, fair enough. Not there. It's really that simple. I know people try to make it like super hard, but yeah, it's no, when speaking English, you don't have to pronounce the T in Flint. Well, if you do pronounce the T, you won't hear it. Flintstones and Flintstones, I don't know what to tell you. Like I said it differently, and I know I said it differently, and I can hear the difference, although really hard to tell. You can't even hear it. And so when you reproduce the font in your head, because you get this general fuzzy version of the font, right? And this is where people like Bernays and that other retard, Ilul, this is where they play their little magic trick, right? Like, yeah, these patterns exist and you can kind of sort of manipulate some of them, kind of, and that kind of can be done at like the higher level, at the group level, if you want, but also it doesn't work very well because just like memes, because guess what memes are? They're based on that same principle. This whole like Dawkins mind virus BS, all he's doing is recapitulating Ellul and Bernays. And it like nothing new's been done in science, guys. Like I'm sorry, but like all the low-hanging fruit was got out in the 30s and 40s at the latest. I don't know what else to tell you. So that's part of the problem. Anselman, it's bad English if you don't pronounce the T in Flint. Well, maybe, but also you can't hear it, as I just demonstrated. It doesn't make sense. Well, it does because it's the name of a cartoon. See, so when you're connecting it, Flynn and Flint make no difference because it's the name of a cartoon. So it's already arbitrary. It's not supposed to correspond to anything. All right. And unless you're a geologist, you don't care what kind of stones they are. So you wouldn't assume that flint is a type of stone necessarily. Most people don't know any geology. They would never look for that connection. And so it's not technically correct or incorrect because it's an arbitrary name of a cartoon. Like it's 2 abstractions away from reality. Well, 3, because it's a TV show. So it's 3 abstractions. So one of these days I'll show you guys how to break down the layers, although I'm not sure I know how to explain that. I read a Twitter thing too. I think that was this week. I just want to cry sometimes, right? Like I read somebody was like, if you can't explain something, you don't understand it. And I'm like, oh my, first of all, all you're doing is saying teachers are the smartest people in the world. And let me freaking tell you something. No, they ain't. Like, right? And that's the problem. That's the total problem. Is that's not true. It's obviously not true. All of the people who are really good at their craft have a very hard time explaining things. Now, there's lots of people that can explain their craft. The problem is they're not very good at it on average. There's very few people who are good at their craft that can explain the whole thing. There's a lot of people that can explain one aspect that they've studied very well. They're also almost always midwits at best. And because they've done one thing well, and this is a trick that's written in books all over the place, is actually written down. Become the best at one little thing, and people will give you more respect or something, right? Like that's everywhere. That's written in all kinds of books, in all kinds of places. It's in business books, it's in self-help books, it's in all kinds of sneaky psychology. Like it's all over the place. And like, this over specialization is bullshit. It's nonsense. It's not good, right? Handsome, how could anyone miss that it's about flint tools of Stone Age man? Most people don't think about flint tools or Stone Age men. They don't think about it. Like, this is the problem. Most people don't know that Stone Age men had flint tools. They may know they had rock tools. People are not as well versed as you and I. I mean, that's the problem. Missed the point of the cartoon's name. Yes, they did, because it's a cartoon and it's hard. Why would a cartoon have a point? This is Jordan Peterson's great point about Pinocchio. Why the hell do you identify with, or understand anything in Pinocchio? It's a cartoon, first of all. It's drawings. And it's about a freaking wooden boy who's a puppet, who comes to life, who's being guided by both a fairy and a talking freaking cricket. Why does any of that make sense to you? What the hell is wrong with you? Why would Flintstones be any different? Why would anybody suspect that, no, this is following some geological and archaeological principles here? Is that the most common tool that's associated, with early man are flint tools, right? It's not the most common tool found, though, is it? No, if you actually know any of the archaeology, you realize obsidian was used far more often, because it flakes better, by the way. And so flint is scientifically wrong. And this is the problem with framing. It's right there. There's the problem with framing all over again. And so that's really a problem. And it's a big problem. It's not a little problem. It's a big problem. And this is why the remembrance thing is so difficult. To Ixnon's excellent point, because Yabba Dabba Doo is more relevant to the show. Exactly. It's way more relevant. That's the thing we hone in on, is the Yabba Dabba Doo. If you don't understand how memory works, then you're not going to understand these principles, and things like the Mandela effect are, how do philosophers talk about the Mandela effect? They say we can't know reality well. And that's the problem. See, Hanselman claims it's Wilma. Right. And that's based, my understanding is that's based on the Honeymooners. Right, Fred Flintstone. And I actually love the Honeymooners. Honeymooners is a riot. I mean, I think you can see it once you see it, right? Also, not a kid's cartoon, was specifically an adult's cartoon. Cartoons, much like putting humans on trains, is a stupid thing to do. It's extraordinarily expensive. Also cool and fun, and wealthy people spend on what they spend. But it's interesting that this is sort of coming up now. I had no idea the Mandela effect was like all over the place again, and we're back to glitch in the matrix, because imagine how few IQ points you'd have to have ultimately to believe that if you were in the matrix, you could find the flaw, that you would even notice a flaw. That is so hysterically funny to me, that because the position that you're in is, on the one hand, you're pissed off that the machine is controlling you and thwarting you. And on the other hand, you're like, aha, I have the upper hand on the machine. And I'm like, bro, they both can't be true. You got to drop one. Right. Or come up with the third option, which is probably a better idea. Of course, I think, and I've discussed this elsewhere already. I think the real problem we're having is the people irrespective of even of 130, 150 IQ, I don't care. People seem to be stuck in this binary. And what that means, the way that manifests, you want to see the last two Father Eric live streams on his channel, by the way, if you want more on this. The way that manifests is the binary is always an opposition. And so it's not just that they only hold two items in their head at a time. One has to be opposed to the other. And so what happens is, and you'll hear them do this, Brett Weinstein does this all the time, is they flip. They go, oh, the left is really the bad guys, but you know what? On the right, they have to be careful too, right? Because they can't commit one way or the other, because they don't want the purity of the correct answer, because that would be a judge, and they don't want the problems of the wrong answer, because that's horrible. And they're trapped. They're completely trapped in this binary. And that's because cognitively they can't do anything else. And then that begs the question, which is the question that I'm sort of have for Rogan and Wilson with their conclusion. What are we going to do about these people, right? I'd have the same question for Brett Weinstein. Okay, your stupid Rorschach trap nonsense. I get it. Your observation's correct. We can call it whatever stupid thing that's absolutely wrong in psychology that you want. I don't care. Look, what are we going to do about it, though? And I did. Look, I've commented to Brett and Heather before. They have never once gotten back to me. And fair enough, I'm not mad. But also, these people are always talking about how, we're the market of good ideas. And when we hear a good idea, we have a conversation. No, you don't. There's no way you're doing that. I've watched people comment on your videos with really good comments and excellent questions, and you never address them. And I've done it too. So 100% not happening that way. 100%. Which is fine. Like, I've always understood. I knew this, decades and decades ago at this point, right? This isn't that hard. So it's a big problem that people don't understand how this stuff works, and they don't understand what we have to do. Maybe people who are unrestrained or, exposed to the evil ways of feminism, which is nothing but satanic, are screwed. Oh, it was interesting too. So in the Mature Peugeot conversation I posted earlier, this actually got brought up. Like, why invent a dishwasher? Because when you do that, and this was the best part. This is way at the end, though. It's like the last 15 minutes or maybe the last 10 minutes. When you create the dishwasher, what you've done is you've manipulated the world by creating a vacuum. Because now their time is not occupied doing dishes. But why replace that function with a machine? What are you now going to replace that thing that took up the time with? Working? Right. I mean, it's a little overstated, but it's actually not very overstated. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. And I've talked about this before. My Zen sweeping protocol to help with anxiety, one of the things you can do is not necessarily sweep the floor, although I think that's the best one for many reasons, but also to do the dishes, because it's a lot of rote muscle memory style tasks. And that actually calms your brain down, because when your body is doing something repetitive and well memorized, it slows your brain down. It gives signals to your brain that everything's okay. If your brain just signals on itself all the time, like you read books, you listen to podcasts, or social media all day, or whatever, that's all brain to brain feedback. Your body's not involved. You're sitting at the computer or you're sitting in a chair, right? Your body's sort of got tension in it because it's not moving, and it should be, right? And so your brain is spinning out of control in fantasy land because there's nothing constraining it, because your body is kind of quiet and not involved. The minute you get your body involved, it constrains your thoughts, and it also sends signals to your brain. No, we're busy. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine, right? And that's how Zen sweeping works. Someday I'll do my anxiety course. Hanselman, my first buggy worked on the Flintstones foot power principle. Well, I think that's important, as long as you're not using that for brakes, which I've had to do once. No fun. Hanselman, God created the dishwasher and called her Eve. Watch out, buddy. The feminists will come after you for that shit. Um, Ixnat, I heard the dishwasher was invented specifically to avoid chipping porcelain dishes. Oh, I'm sure they'll tell you all kinds of things. Um, that's why I don't have one. All my fine china. Okay, Anselm. That's funny. Um, I mean, partially, yes, it was invented for the servants, I think, but also no. And it really doesn't matter, right? The problem is once you invent something into the world, it's in the world and it quickly spins out of control. And so it can be used for evil. And that's more or less like the Rorschach test could be used to explain mass human behavior instead of as a diagnostic tool. I don't know why you would destroy the world in that particular way unless you were really stupid, but also we have a lot of really stupid people with a lot of influence, and that's because we let people have YouTube and YouTube channels. And I'd rather shut them all down and shut mine down with them than have any of them up with all the stupid people saying dumb things like linking allegedly strange statements, which aren't strange at all, at CERN to the Mandela effect and to the fact that you don't, to optical illusions. Like, that's ridiculous. You're just not doing good in the world, but you're doing a hell of a lot of damage to people. Please don't do that. So, all right. So that's my Muppet Madness and my Muppet Madness explanation. And I have dealt with whatever I could deal with because you guys are boring and didn't really post anything. But if you want to join in on camera, I am happy to have you come and visit, and then we can talk more about maybe and you can post them in the live text comments too. What you're seeing in the world, and I can try to comment on that. Um, I wonder if Twitter even has such things. I never look at Twitter because Twitter's a mess. Their interfaces are absolutely the worst possible way to do anything ever, which is unfortunate. But I guess I don't see anything posted on my little Twitter thing. Although I should probably like my own video, huh? Oh, look at this. You can watch your video on Twitter. That's cool. I like it. I didn't know that until now. I never thought about it. But now that I think about it, it kind of makes sense. And you can promote your posts. I don't know what that means, but I don't have any money, so I'm not going to give it to Elon. Elon has more money than I do, I think. He stopped production of two of the Tesla models, not all the Teslas, but two of the Tesla models, because the factories never reached peak capacity, and he wants to make robots instead. And I'm just like, really, dude? Uh, and even these people talking about technology, I'm just like, I don't think they know anything about technology. I don't think they understand technology. I basically no hope for these people whatsoever. Robots, like someone's got to maintain and build the robots, guys. You're making slavery an intermediate event through a mechanism, like a physical machine, which just cracks me up. It's like, no, we still have slaves. Um, and that was one disappointing thing about the Peugeot conversation was they kept using like slavery, and I'm like, do you mean basic cooperation? Because it's hard because he's not wrong, and some of the stuff he says is definitely slavery, but and I ultimately like his definition. Slavery is when you're not given a choice. I'm like, oh, yeah, that might be right. Like that might be fundamentally correct. Maybe the degrees of slavery are all about your level of choice. But the problem with that is it strays quickly into liberalism, which that's not good. Liberalism is a poison on the world, at least the way we're conceiving of it nowadays. Ultimately, we need a much better formula for understanding and thinking and talking about quote liberalism. A lot of people have a lot of mistaken impressions on when this was, where this was, why it happened. And that's a real problem. And oh, another video I did record, but obviously it's a you know way out on the release schedule at this point. Maybe I'll get 2 videos out next week. Is on the agenosis, and I did a timeline of the agenosis, and ain't no one going to be happy with that for sure, but also true. So that will be coming out. I was going to write an article too, but because I had to get up early for my stupid business meeting, I got sick. And that was the day I was going to write the article, and so no article on Substack. But I got to get back to Substack, and like, there's some stuff I can write down out there and and get that going. And I probably need to write another article for Peterson Sphere, which I haven't done in a while, and maybe one for Mark of Wisdom, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's on more choice equals less slavery, but more choice isn't always good. I don't. I think the problem is that everyone's missing the third way, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I had to go out and I broke the sink, my bathroom sink. Uh, when I put it together, I broke it. I didn't realize I put it together wrong. Um, but when I went to fix it, I didn't have the right parts. I'm like, oh, that's why I put it together wrong, because I didn't have the right parts. That makes sense. So I ran to the store, and as I was coming back from the store, I was like, I think everyone's misunderstanding like the utility of religion, because what religion is doing is helping everything else, we'll say, to form in such a way to include people with the least amount of conflict and the most amount of constrained choice or something. One of the problems that we run into is if you give somebody too many, this is well studied in so-called psychology, which should just be called human behavior. If you give somebody too many choices, they make bad choices every time, like reliably, right? So that's not good. And it's not everybody, but it's actually you for sure, and almost everybody you've ever met for sure. It's a vanishingly small number of people that don't do that. Um, because most people only hold 2 things in their head. They're stuck on the binary, and those things, one is good and one is bad. That's the best they can do. They can't hold 2 good things and a bad thing, or 2 bad things and a good thing in their head. They can't do it, like, actually, technically. And I think many of these quote thinkers and smart people, and the Weinsteins and the Vervekis and even the Petersons, I'm not sure they can do it, like, because they don't talk like that ever. They always talk in the binary, which is hard to spot sometimes because they flip the binary and they change. The problem is they change binaries, right? So they'll talk about 2 things, they'll drop one of the things and talk about one of the other things and then something else. And you don't notice that they're talking about something else. And you think, oh, we're talking about all these things together. But no, they drop the other thing, usually on the grounds that it's bad or the grounds that it's good and we no longer need to think about it. Ah, we don't need to consider that. That's definitely good. Okay, now this is bad and this is good. I was like, wait a minute, but what about this other thing that's also good? I don't know. We're not talking about that anymore because we can only do things in our head. So that pattern is one of the patterns that I see with binary thinking. That's kind of everywhere. And that's part of what's causing the chaos, because they can make these discrete linear connections between 2 things, but then you have one good and one bad, and you can flip them, but you can't get rid of them, and you can't integrate them. You can't do the thesis, antithesis, synthesis nonsense that Hegel does, which does not resolve a binary. What Hegel does is he says there's this third mysterious state, but like, it's undefined. Like, I'm not trying to reduce the 2 back to 1, which is what synthesis does by definition. Like, that's how the word is put together, right? You're taking 2 things and combining them into one thing. No, 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 that's disenchantment, technically. No, that's wrong. That's bad, evil, and wrong. Don't do that. That is incorrect. It is backwards. That is incorrect. That is clown world, upside down, right? And that's part of the issue. So it's hard to spot these binaries because they keep changing up the binaries. Or they'll put 2 binaries aside and bring up 2 new ones. it's hard to see, but a lot of people are caught in that. And what religion does is give everything a place, right? Where it can contribute in a positive fashion. So there's a win win situation. The problem with binary thinking is that they can't do win win situations because that actually requires three things. It requires this person to win, and a big win for everybody that's higher. And they can't do three, and they can't do two positives. They can't do it because there's no contrast to see, to be fair, right? Anselman, a synthesis. Very clever, sir. Very clever. Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much with him, he's such a jerk. Hegel's such a jerk. It's unbelievable. And Goethe knew him. Just read what Goethe had to say about the guy, and then you'll know everything you need to know about him. You can discount him immediately. This is so funny to me. As like these guys are all easy to discount, right? The argument in philosophy remains: isn't everybody just a footnote to Plato? The answer is yes. That means there is no philosophy after Aristotle. None. Zero. Zip. They're just footnotes. That's all. Ixnay, Hegel certainly missed the mark. He missed the mark of wisdom. That's what he missed. You have to aim for the mark of wisdom. It's higher. It's way high. I have an old graphic for the community that demonstrates that. Actually, it's rather funny. It's done by a professional cartoonist. I don't know his real name. Interesting guy up in Canada who did some of the CBC cartoons back in the day. I don't know what he's working on now. I haven't talked to him in ages. Unfortunately, he didn't make the transition to the Mark of Wisdom Discord server from the Awakening from the Meaning Crisis server, although hopefully that's because he's busy with his family, which would redeem everything. Anselman, I speak German in a Hegelian dialect. Or is it a Hegelian dialectic? Dun, dun, dun. That whole dialectic is like the perfect way to understand somebody stuck in binary thinking. Like, it's the dialectic. It's this magic synthesis between two people that creates a deeper experience for both of them. Oh, really? Is that how that works? Whatever. I would say that's a win-win situation. It's good cooperation, right? Oh, people are participating together. In other words, they're not locked in a debate for points, for example. Yeah, isn't that better? I wouldn't call that the dialectic, though. I mean, you can if you want. I really don't care. But also, what are we doing? Why is Hegel our guy? He's a bit of a retard. I'm just saying. It's kind of obvious, but he's like the original stuck in the binary guy, I guess. At least in terms of quote, and he's not even a philosopher, he's a theologian, which just burns my butt. He's a terrible theologian, to be fair to him, but like he is a theologian. He wasn't trying to be a philosopher. He was happy to get lots of attention, but none of the chicks wanted him. So I don't know. I guess they have really good intuition, and why shouldn't they? Another thing that sort of came up in the mature Peugeot conversation was, yeah, I don't need to know that. Intuition's good enough. Like I can just smell the bad fruit. I don't need to know why it's bad or how old it is or how bad it is or what spots on it are bad to know not to eat the damn thing. It's like, yeah, pretty much. And people miss that. Like most of your decisions are intuitive. And that's good for you because you can make intuitive decisions really fast. Now you can't validate them to other people. So fair enough. Also, I hate other people, so I don't want to validate anything to them. They can go to hell. That's fine with me. It's not my business. My business is taking care of me and the people around me, not random people on the internet. And it's just too bad that we're definitely being shadow banned and stuff all the time because that sucks. But I think the problem is when people talk about that, they don't realize there's Google, the company, there's the algorithm, and then there's all the people participating in the platform. And they sway the platform more than anything else, right? Jung talked about this in terms of zeitgeist, right? That's the collective unconscious zeitgeist nonsense. And not that it doesn't exist. It's just an unhelpful way to talk about something. So, sure, there's spirits running through at the layer of society that are moving things. And they're moving things only by moving attention. And fair enough. I mean, Mandela effect seems to have caught everybody's attention recently somehow for some reason. I gotta wonder what video Jonathan saw, or if all the people doing videos with the video formulas are just copying the common Mandela effect examples from that book or from the original uh, complaint or whatever. I did like Jonathan's points, by the way. I thought they were really really good. Um, where is that video? You know what? It's freaking here. So what I'll do is I'll just grab a link to it because I can really easily. Um, yeah, symbolism happens. The Mandela effect is not a glitch in the matrix. I do like this video. Uh, yeah, there. We'll just paste it right there, so you can check that one out. It is good. I liked it. Like I said, he's missing a few things, in my opinion. He's not as good at talking about patterns as he is about symbols. Fair enough. Patterns is my thing. Um, phone me up, Jonathan. We'll do our convo. I already put in for one and was rejected. So, but I guess I'm on a list, or I don't. Let's see what happens when my other convo comes out. My channel blows up. It already partially blew up, so I suspect it got put at members only. But we'll see what happens once it gets released. That's a very big channel. So once that comes out, a bunch of stuff will change. Hopefully, I can sell some more books because that would be nice too. Um, but I appreciate I've already sold a bunch of books. I know that we had all kinds of glitches and like misunderstandings, and apparently employees that can't listen. And even though I'm talking directly to them saying, "Hey, what's going on?" They're not getting the message that maybe they need to do things differently. Um, all of that should be fixed now, I'm told. Fingers crossed. We'll see. And then we'll get on with the games, building the games. We're working on the manners book, so that's coming as well. That's going to be super important. Maybe I won't call it the manners book. How psyopy do I need to be? I don't know. We'll figure it out. The team's on it. But yeah, we've got these card games coming. And actually, I figured out like, oh, I have all these coding AIs, and some of them are free, by the way. But I pay for one in particular. I was like, oh, we can just like gin up a play test online for these card games. Like like when you're play testing, it doesn't matter if you see other people's hands and stuff. So I did that, and AI did it in one prompt pretty damn well. And I spent all of 20 minutes. It spent all of 20 minutes building it, and it like one shotted it pretty well. Um, and so if you're looking for coding AIs, can't do much better than Codex from OpenAI. Actually, no one talks about it. On the popular things, they're all talking about Google Anti-Gravity, which is also excellent and free. But Codex is really good. Like I was shocked at how good it was. I I I had tested some of the OpenAI coding stuff out before, and it wasn't this good. So I don't know if something changed, or yeah, Codex 5.2 is phenomenal. But yeah, I need to do videos on my other channel too. I keep coming up with them and then not doing videos. Part of it's just that there's so much going on with these. It's been a wacky winter. Storms, illnesses, broken bathroom sinks, um, all kinds of crazy stuff. I had all kinds of hardware problem. Like I said, the laptop shut itself off like 3 or 4 times now, and then those stupid freaking Windows updates are driving me nuts. So all kinds of problems. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Caden Live, like, just couldn't do Whisper transcripts anymore. I was like, "What happened?" But I switched to Audacity, and it does Whisper too, so, that worked just fine. I don't know why Caden didn't work anymore. It's worked in the past. It might be the size of the video. Why it tells my computer to shut off with no warning, I've never witnessed that before. I don't can't imagine what that is, but maybe the laptop has bad memory in it. I don't know. Always possible. Can never tell with these things, but everything has been wacky, and definitely headwinds. It's been all headwinds. For whatever stupid reason, it's been all headwinds. And this is part of the madness. The world is going mad, and it's getting worse. And there's no amount. Like, I had a big tiff on Twitter with somebody from the Awakening server from back in the day, Struan, and like he was just wrong about everything. I'm like, bro, I live here. I'm pretty sure you live in South Africa, and you don't know the laws here. And everything you're saying about the laws here are actually just wrong. Just out, and you could look it up, because even in South Africa, you can look up U.S. law, and no convincing him. And then he went after like personal and said ridiculous things. And so I, shot him in the head like a wounded animal, because you don't want to get personal with me, because ain't no one got nothing on me. I'm squeaky clean, baby. And you're not. Don't do that. That's a mistake. That's a big error. That's a big error. I didn't even get nasty. Like I could have gone into all kinds of things, but I was just like, no, you're not. You're not defaming me publicly on Twitter. That's not gonna work. And telling people I'm crying about losing my house and implying I'm a criminal because the courts ruled against me in a case. That's not how that works. There's criminal law and civil law in this country, sir. Doesn't work that way. But with everybody seeing different things, even though there's an objective view, it's but things are righting themselves, right? But at some point you have to have the discussion. Okay, we have crazy people in the world. We have people that cannot be convinced by evidence. That's going to come up in my video release. What do we do about those people? Like, we have to do something about them, right? We can't do it. Like, we have to have that discussion. And no one wants to have that discussion because it violates the principles of individualism, which is I do what I want when I want with no consequences or constraints. And that ain't gonna work. That's liberalism. That's individualism. Answer: no skeletons in the closet, only on the banner behind. Exactly. That's I have two of those, but there's only one up at a time. I might find a way to put the other one up. That would be fun. Have a black flag and a red flag at the same time. I think I did that once, didn't I? I think I put them both up once. Yeah. All right, guys. Look, I am tired, and we have to prepare for a storm that's starting tonight. And I have no bathroom sink, which makes me cry. So I'm going to call this live stream done. I hope you got something out of it. I will be doing a video on binary thinking. I'll be doing a video on this idea of objectivism. I will have to tackle individualism, materialism after that. And then objective material reality, like in its own video. So I will try to work on those. We'll see what happens. I lost power last storm for like 5 hours overnight mostly, so it wasn't a super big deal. I was super prepared, so I had everything shut down. But I might lose power again. We'll see. I don't think so. I think the storm will be a nothing. It is a bomb cyclone, very dangerous. But actually, I think they're fine. Good night, Anselman. Ixon, thank you. I will take all the luck I can get. And everybody have a great week. Just remember the one most important thing, and that is that the world needs you, so be better. And the way to make the world better is for you to be better. It's that simple. It's not hard. And I will figure out a topic for next week. We'll definitely do a topic. I'll just figure out which one. I have a whole list of topics. If you have suggestions, put them in the comments. I'll always consider suggestions, even if I don't do them or I don't do them right away. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.